Well, hello there, my beautiful friends. Today we are going to be doing some live swatches of the brand new Natasha Denona Love Palette. I have been so excited to get this palette in the mail, and I am so excited to show you guys here today. So if you are interested in seeing some live swatches and some finger swatches of the new palette, then go ahead and keep on watching, and let's jump right on in. So before we get going with the swatches and showing off the beautiful palette here, I just have some general information to share with you guys about this palette. Now it retails for $65 and you get 15 different shades in this palette. Sorry if you just heard like some bells chiming. My adorable little cat is right next to me, but she is very, very loud. But nonetheless, this palette contains 0.68 ounces of product. It is limited edition, it is paraben free, cruelty free, and it is made in the beautiful country of Italy. According to Natasha Denona's website, her legendary pigment-packed formula glides over the skin with the opacity of a cream and the silky blendability of a powder. Now, according to her website as well, allegedly these are supposed to be super saturated pigments that deliver intense color payoff that stay vibrant from pan to skin without fading, creasing, or smudging. So those are some pretty big claims here, but we are talking about Natasha Denona, a luxury brand here who's known for having pretty decent to relatively high quality products. But let's go ahead and put these shadows to the test, see if they pass the finger swatch test, and of course see if they pass the brush swatch test. So getting started with the first shade in the palette, this is the shade First. I think it's funny that the first shade in the palette is also called First, but this is described as a peachy beige with a creamy matte finish. This shadow was super buttery and creamy and smooth, and it was ultra pigmented. It was just so luxurious and velvety, and it just felt like a very luxe and high-end eyeshadow. I was thoroughly impressed with the pigmentation of the brush swatch, and I feel like it blended pretty nicely as well. Jumping into the second shade, we have Lifetime, which is described as a warm gold with a shimmer finish. As you can see, this finger swatch is absolutely beautifully. It is so smooth and buttery and silky. Oh my goodness, this shadow was just a dream to finger swatch. I feel like this would definitely perform best if you just use your fingertips, but as you can see, I am able to really build up the color and the pigmentation with just two different applications of the eyeshadow with the brush. So, you know, I definitely think a finger is going to do a better job, but I feel that way about legitimately every shimmer basically ever. But if you want to use a brush to get in like tight areas, or if you got long nails, I think that a brush will actually do you well. You may just have to finesse it just a smidge more. Now, the third shade in the palette is called Heartbeat, and this is described as a deep maroon with a creamy matte finish. As you can see with the finger swatch, this is not overly impressive. It's not bad by any means, but it's just not nearly as pigmented as that beautiful, silky, creamy, smooth peach from the beginning. This one is definitely much more patchy, and with the brush swatch, it's about the same. It's a little bit less concentrated, but as you can see, I'm using a fluffy brush like I would if I was doing my eye makeup. So that's the whole point of me using a fluffy brush and not just using like a dense packing brush. So it's all right. Heartbeat's okay, but I'm definitely not head over heels for her. So the fourth shade in the palette is called Transparent, and this is described as a bronze champagne with a metallic finish. This is probably my second favorite color in the entire palette. This is such a beautiful, metallic, high shine, kind of peachy gold situation here. It is absolutely gorgeous. I wouldn't really describe it as a bronzed champagne. It's much peachier in person, but it is absolutely beautiful. It is so incredibly pigmented, and it is so easy to pack on with a brush. You get a lot of pigmentation, I feel, with a brush or with a finger. And like I said with the first shade, I truly feel like this is the definition of a Natasha Denona luxe eyeshadow that you're gonna go out and spend your hard-earned coin on. This is the kind of eyeshadow that I expect from Natasha. I could see Transparent working as a beautiful peachy, rosy type highlight for people with deeper skin as well. It is absolutely gorgeous. And the last shade in the top row is called Trust. This is described as a deep plum with a creamy matte finish. And as you can see from the finger swatch here, you know, this is an okay plum. It's not the most amazing plum in the world. You know, these definitely are going to perform differently over an eyeshadow base. This is just on my bare skin here, and of course it's on my arm and not on my eyes. But we can get a pretty good indication of how this is going to build up once you use it on the eyes. She's definitely there, but she's not the most amazing plum I've ever seen in my life. She's doing okay. So moving on to the second row, we have the shade Heart, which is a rich red with a creamy matte finish. I feel like this matte is formulated much better than the other mattes that I've shown you thus far, especially the deeper mattes. This guy is super pigmented. As you can see with the brush here, we get almost full pigmentation with just one brush swatch, and it seems like everything blended out really nicely as well. It seems like the pigmentation of this guy is really beautiful, and this is definitely a kind of lighter and brighter toned red, so it might look a little bit washed out on camera, but in person, Heart was absolutely beautiful. The second shade in the second row is called Giving, and this is a coral with a pink duochrome finish. Oh my freaking lord, this is absolutely, like, hands down my favorite shade in the palette. This shade is absolutely beautiful. I could see some people not liking this color because it's definitely a bit more transparent, if you will. It's a bit more sheer, but you can build it up, as you can see here. If you know me, then you know that I'm totally okay with a semi-sheer eyeshadow that has a lot of sparkle, a lot of shimmer to it, and that is exactly this kind of shade. You could pack this over a deeper color in the palette to have something really bright and intense and super shimmery, or you can use this with some of these softer shades to have a really gorgeous, soft, rosy, duochrome type look. It is absolutely beautiful. The sparkle in this guy is just so intense and shimmery and beautiful. It is total perfection. Jumping onto the third shade here, we have Pure Love. This is described as a warm plum with blue reflex and a duochrome finish. This is a really beautiful color that I feel like a lot of people are going to like. This is a duochrome, but it's much more tame. It's much more subdued than the shade Giving. As you can see, there's much more of a base pigment to this color as well. It's a little reminiscent of MAC's Blue Brown. That is a throwback if I've ever heard one, but if you guys remember Blue Brown, this is a little bit reminiscent of that shade, just much more intense and much more grown up and much more shimmery. It is beautiful. Jumping next door here, we have the shade Commitment, which is described as a burgundy brown with a creamy matte finish. As you can see from the finger swatch and the brush swatch as well, this guy is pretty intense in color. It's very smoky, it's very deep. It would be great for deepening up a lot of these lighter tones, but I feel like all of the deeper tones that I've shown so far have been kind of subpar. They're okay, they're not amazing, but this guy's actually pretty pigmented, and you don't really need that much product to get the color that you see in the pan. This is the kind of shade that's going to be perfect for deepening up any look with any of the colors in this palette. It just goes perfectly with the color selection. And jumping next door to the last shade in the row here, we have the shade Blind, which is described as a silver with a metallic finish. As you can see, this is definitely a silver shade, but it is much more warm toned than just your standard typical cool toned platinum silver. This guy is a little bit more taupey, if you will. It's almost got a bit of pink in there. It is absolutely beautiful. I am not the kind of gal to wear silver eyeshadow basically ever, but this makes me want to put this all over my lids and embrace silver eyeshadow and keep it here to stay. It is such a unique color. I love the undertone. I think the undertone goes perfectly with the rest of the shades. It is absolutely gorgeous. And jumping down to the last row, we have the shade Soul, which is a deep dusty rose with a creamy matte finish. This is probably my favorite row overall in the entire palette because we have all sorts of beautiful rosy pinky mattes, which you know I love. Now this is a really beautiful dusty rose. Is it the most amazing dusty rose that I've ever used? Not really. I have better in my collection as far as I can tell. I just don't really feel like it's a true dusty rose. I feel like we have a lot more coral in here, and I think that's why I prefer some of my other dusty rose shades to this one, which really does lean much more coral. Jumping into the second shade, we have Passion, which is a deep burgundy with a shimmer finish. Now, this shade is really similar to Commitment, the burgundy brown from earlier, but it's a bit lighter and a bit more red based. And as you can see, we have a really beautiful amount of kind of pinky red shimmers in there. They lean much more pink than they do burgundy or red, which really brightens up this color. It makes it much more bright and in your face and intense, and this guy has a really beautiful amount of sheen and shine. I feel like this is the one and done type of eyeshadow. You can put this in the crease if you want to and kind of buff away some of those shimmers, or you can pack it on to get really, really intense, strong burgundy shimmery eyes that will absolutely stun anybody. This is the perfect smoky eye topper, or this is the perfect one and done smoky eye kind of color. She's definitely a versatile shade, and of course she's absolutely beautiful. The next shade in the palette is called Intense, and this is described as a peachy pink with a creamy matte finish. As you can see from the brush swatch here and the finger swatch, she's definitely pretty darn pigmented. I swatched all of these on, unprimed skin. Honestly, my arm was kind of dry, so I think that it did apply pretty darn decently. And I do think that this shade is much more intense and a lot more neon-esque, if you will, than any of the other colors in the palette. It's much brighter, it's much more in your face, and I feel like this would be the perfect accent to a lot of the deeper tones that are in this palette. Moving right on over, we have probably my favorite matte in the entire palette besides the shade First, and that is Valentine. This is described as a rose pink with a creamy matte finish. This is just the most beautiful, super soft, very subdued, yet still a little bit in your face, kind of pastel-y pink rose shade. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love shades like this. And I think that it's formulated really beautifully. It just applied so smoothly and buttery and creamy. And it's definitely a lighter tone, but it's not so incredibly stark light that you wouldn't be able to wear it if you have deeper skin. I think that this would still work for a nice variety of skin tones. And I wish we could say that we saved the best for last, but honestly, I cannot say that even in the slightest. This is the shade Dream, and this is described as an amethyst with a metallic finish, apparently. Is that why I really didn't like this eyeshadow? I don't know. I'm reading straight from her website right now, and that's what she says. But as you can see, to me, this looks like a matte, and it seems to be performing like a matte. Oh my goodness. This was like the most disappointing purple ever. It is so incredibly sheer when you use a brush with this shade. I think with the finger swatch, it did okay. It's a little patchy, it's a little kind of uneven, but the brush swatch left a lot to be desired. Now I'm gonna have to try it on the eyelids, but I can get a little bit of an understanding of how the shadow is gonna work just by, applying it to my arm with a brush and kind of blending it out a little. And, I'm not really excited to use amethyst, which is surprising because I typically love tones like this. But like I said, this guy left a lot to be desired. She's pretty darn patchy. Alright my friends, but we have reached the end of this Natasha Denona Love Palette swatch party. So you're gonna have to let me know in the comments if you've tried this palette, if you disagree with me on some of these shades, and if you found some way to make this shade Dream work. I'm gonna have to try this on camera here and do a tutorial. This way we can test it on the eyes together, but so far as finger swatches and brush swatches go, I think that the palette's pretty darn good for 65 bucks. I mean, this is Natasha Denona we're talking about here. The girl was charging $125 previously for her palettes, so I'll take what I can get. If some of the shades are busts out of the entire palette, but most of the palette is good, I'm okay with it, and that's honestly how I feel about this palette. I think it's worth the $65 for me personally, but it just depends on whether or not you're gonna use these types of tones and whether or not any of these shades are actually attractive to you. While there are some duds for me, I still think that there are a lot of hits, and for me that justifies this palette and this purchase. Whatever makes me feel better at night, right? But that is going to be wrapping up today's video. So leave a comment, talk to me, let me know if you've tried this or not. And if you enjoyed today's video and if you want to see more, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below to stay in the loop with when I post. And with that being said, I hope you are having an absolutely amazing and beautiful day wherever you are. And thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope to see you next time. Bye!